Greetings, my fellow night-faring hooligans. If this script is correct, this may be a rather long video, so I will spare you the introduction. Here's some things you should know before we start. For categorization's sake, this video will be split into two segments. One segment will focus on changes pertaining to both new and existing content. The other segment will focus on bug fixes. Let's begin. Starting off our list, let's talk about the many merchants that inhabit these motherfucking cursed
lies deep in a dense color.
And just for clarification, I'm talking about the regular merchants, not the special shop merchants that only spawn in randomly. Normally, you can find quite a few of these merchants scattered around different campsites, fortresses, and sometimes even around places that are not in proximity of any points of interest. This is highly convenient as they sell many weapons and items the player will find useful. However, inexplicably, every last one of them sells the exact same weapons. Is there some kind of deepest lore behind this? Is this a chain franchise where no matter the location, they sell the same thing in order to maintain a standard? Likely not. There's no reason they should all be selling the same weapons. It makes your run that much more predictable than it already is, which, let's be honest, makes things a little boring. Also, it would be nice if they sold staves and seals alongside weapons, but it's not the end of the world, considering those two armaments have their dedicated map objects that spawn only those items. Here is your daily hot take. I don't care if I'm stuck in Limveld. As long as you make more shifting earth locations that alter the map slightly and give me a completely new way to do my route, that is enough. The shifting earth mechanic is such a large part of the game that you're actively harming yourself if you choose not to bother with it, should it appear in your run. You'll likely spend most of your run trying to complete the shifting earth in an environment that is both structurally and visually divorced from Limveld. I know a lot of players make a lot of noise about wanting to have more maps than just Limveld, but in my opinion, if the shifting earth is done with the level of detail and depth as something like the Eternal City, I don't really care if I'm stuck in Limveld-themed maps forever. Map editing in From Software games is a huge pain in the ass from my experience, so if I had a say in it, I would prioritize shifting earth events over making new maps that look different. To me, it's more important that they play differently. There's so much Elden Ring content that they have yet to incorporate to the shifting earths. Haligtree, Stormvale, Shadowkeep, Enerlim, Lanedell, Farum Azula, the list goes on. With these potentially new shifting earths, it would encourage a lot more from the game. Which leads to my next topic. Please, for the love of God, put more bosses in the game. If there's a Haligtree shifting earth, I expect to fight Melania. If there's a Farum Azula shifting earth, I expect to fight Placidusax. You get the picture. As I stated in my last point, there is a lot of content that has yet to be utilized. However, we don't want to make the game too predictable. Having a larger roster of bosses and mini-bosses would only enrich the experience of Nightreign. I enjoy the way it's set up at the moment, with Elden Ring bosses roaming the world and some Dark Souls bosses appearing at the end of the day. I just wish there was more variance in certain encounters. Like, imagine if you wander off into the mines and you find a Titanite demon waiting for you, or you fight your way to the top of the central fortress to find Udix Gundyr waiting for you, or you traverse the Rot Forest to find the curse-rotted Greatwood waiting for you. There's quite a lot that can be done with returning Souls bosses, just as much as Elden Ring bosses. I personally would love to see some bosses from Sekiro return as well. I would thoroughly enjoy a fight with the Demon of Hatred at the end of Day 2. Yeah, I don't know, anything, as long as it expands the exceedingly limited roster of bosses and mini-bosses that we have at the current moment. This one is bound to happen, but it's enjoyable to be able to discuss it in more detail. By new events, I mean all events that somewhat randomly happen during a run. Giant bubbles forming, meteor crash landings, the demon's curse, you get the picture. What I would really enjoy would be some kind of event that allows me to change the Ash of War on my weapon. How many times have you picked up a weapon that you really enjoy using, only for it to have some situational garbage like White Shadow's Lure or Storm Stomp or Shared Order? Shadow's Lure, Storm Stomp, Shared Order. Shadow's Lure, Storm Stomp, Shared Order. Shadow's Lure, Storm Stomp, Shared Order. Shadow's Lure, Storm Stomp, Shared Order.
You only got 3 things on this fucking menu!
For me, this is a majority of the time, which is why I only ever use the character's starting weapon. Or maybe we could get an event that allows you to change the affinity of your weapon. That would be incredibly useful. We'll almost certainly be getting new Night Lord type events for our runs, as there's one for Maris and Libra.
Return the slab, or suffer my curse.
I'd love to see some new events tied to both new and regular Night Lords like Fulgor, Caligo, Tricephalos, Adele, and maybe even Hailster. I would enjoy seeing what kinds of creative events would be tied to these bosses in the future should these wants ever become a reality. Imagine having to fight Hailster during a day run, but if you beat him, it allows you to pick a purple rarity weapon among a selection of any weapon in the game. Now that would be a treat. This one is a bit of a nitpick, but please expand the available Ashes of War in the Relic Pool. I get that it's intended to be limited, but it's just way too limited at the moment. Consider that you obtain these solely through the grace of RNG and RNG only. Also consider that not every Ash of War is available on every weapon. I can't put Prayerful Strike on Wylder's greatsword, nor Guardian's halberd, nor many other things. Also consider that this takes up an entire slot of your relic stone. So if you want to have a different Ash of War on your starter weapon, you have to first roll a decent relic with the proper Ash of War, and then use a whole slot of your relic chalice to do so. This only serves to limit the different ways in which you can play your character, which with the RNG limitations on relics, is already exceedingly cumbersome. Why would I want to change my Ash of War when I can just run Wylder's Earring, partial HP on post-damage attacks, and attack power increased upon defeat of a jail prisoner? I love having the opportunity to choose between wielding abysmal dogshit or the Wrath of God and his 7 archangels. It really speaks to my intelligence and thought capacity as a player of these games. For reference, here's a list of all the Ashes of War available in the Relic Pool. See anything you might like? I would hope so, because that's all there is. Here's a list of Ashes of War that should be in the Relic Pool. If we're forced to spend valuable resources to do something as simple as equipping a different Ash of War, it should at least be one that we want. Also, you're telling me that Wylder's greatsword doesn't come with wild strikes from the get-go? He may be Wylder, but he clearly isn't the wildest. Also, before you comment on anything that has to do with game balance, don't. Just don't. Lastly, new weapons. Of course, we'll be getting new weapons ported from Shadow of the Erdtree, and while this is certainly cool and all, unless they make me pay for the content and data I have already purchased and possessed, which in that case would make it 100 times less cool, what would really impress me would be if they added returning weapons to the game in addition to the ones that most of us have already purchased and possess. I'm talking about weapons like the Nameless King's Sword Spear, the Smelter Demon's Colossal Sword, the Dragon King Great Axe, the Dancer's Enchanted Swords, etc. Please allow these weapons to drop, or at least have the chance to be in the loot pool of rewards upon defeating the corresponding Heirs of Fire. Should any other Heirs of Fire make a return to Nightreign, I would love to see their weapons be made available to the player characters. Unrelated, but owners of the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC should at least get a discount on any upcoming Nightreign DLC. Although I'm sure this would be a huge profit loss, since I'm guessing roughly 100% of people who own Nightreign also own Elden Ring and its DLC. It would be a nice gesture to the fans that have stuck with FromSoft all these years. I'm sure I'm missing a few bugs on the list, but here are the ones I've come across personally. The bug that prevents great enemies from dropping rewards upon death is super cringe and needs to be addressed ASAP. Aim punch. This was the bug that causes your player's arms to dislocate and fling all over the place during attack animations, often causing you to miss your target when your attack would have squarely landed. If you were present during the entirety of Elden Ring's lifespan, you might remember that they fixed this bug. Although not entirely, they did a half-assed job of fixing it and most people were satisfied. Well, here's something you may not know. Elden Ring Nightreign is using frame data from pre-DLC Elden Ring, so a lot of attack data in this game is roughly a year out of date. That means a lot of the issues present in pre-DLC Elden Ring are present in the current version of Nightreign as well. This includes the aim punch bug, or more accurately described, the allowance of additive blend during a player's attack animation. Aside from it looking goofy as shit, it can make the game needlessly frustrating as some of your attacks will just flat out miss when they shouldn't. It's incredibly easy to fix this phenomenon, and I myself have completely removed it from ever happening in a Nightreign mod that I'm developing. All it takes is adding a single event to the timeline that exists within each attack animation. It's a rather boring task, but it's still very much possible with enough elbow grease. I'm sure any programmer at From Software in charge with the player character data could complete this task in an hour as I have. Well, that's all I've got for today. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Use the comment section to voice your concerns, and I will ask my mom if it's okay to use the computer. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day. Until next time.